Hi, ladies and gentlemen. We're live on the air, and this is Jim Ziegler, the Alpha Dog, and this is the Dawg Pound. Another week, another thrilling episode. I think we're up to like 47 now. We've been doing this a while. I've got an all-star cast of mischievous instigators here, starting with Jennifer Briggs, one of the most brilliant women in the world, in the universe, in automotive. Hello, Jennifer.
Hey, Jim. I'm so excited to be back with you guys this week. And for the viewers, bear with me. I have about 75% of my voice back. So if I sound weird, it's the laryngitis.
We missed you last week.
It's been rough when you train and you speak for a living. Not being able to produce a sound is like being captured. So I'm glad to be back with you guys this week.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, one of the most non-eligible, eligible, perennial bachelors in the world. my friend, my friend, Ken Rosenfield from Rosenfield and Company, one of the foremost CPAs in the known universe. Hello, big guy.
Well, I didn't know I was the most eligible bachelor in the world, but that's
Are you
Eligible,
not,
I think he said eligible,
I
ineligible.
guess
I'll
you're
take that
off
as a
the market.
compliment.
You're off the market, aren't you?
I don't know what I am anymore.
Oh, Jim, don't do
The
that.
kids would say it's complicated, is what they would say.
Thank you, Jennifer. That's why you're the most brilliant woman in the automotive business.
Right, I got you.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine, Ken is the CPA group that handles some of the biggest, most successful dealer groups in the country. This guy is so smart. I mean, he's much smarter than he looks, trust me. Okay.
You have a face for radio. Yeah.
And from Friendemic, my other good friend, Hannah Lifson. Hello, Hannah.
Hey everybody, so excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you. And direct from who knows where he's from today, the king of reinsurance, my other good friend, Max Zanan. Hello, big guy.
Hey, Jim. I think I'm 15 years away from being the most eligible bachelor.
That's pretty good.
Oh man, I wouldn't even know what
It's
that.
all yours, Max.
you know, I'd be afraid to be a bachelor today. I can't leave Debbie.
No, you
I mean, I'm going to get there, trust me.
Oh my God. And the queen of BDC, I mean, the absolute undisputed queen of the realm, my friend Bobbie Herron.
Hello.
Okay. All of these people have one thing in common. They've been involved with me at one or another conferences. Now, the industry has so many conferences, and it amazed me post-pandemic. Now we're getting back face to face, live people. Some of them without masks. I mean, it's unheard of. I mean, but I went online and started looking at the different conferences, and it appears to me a lot of conferences didn't come back. It looks like a lot of them didn't come back. There's big news in the industry. Some of these conferences have been bought out. So, Jennifer, you have been a speaker at 4 or 5 of my Internet Battle Plan conferences. What conferences are you going to this year? What conferences are you looking at?
Well, so and I was going to be at NAD until I got sick, just because I wanted to be able to, at least be in the expo. For me, each conference has something a little bit different. When it comes to education across every department, I think the Digital Dealer does a really great job with representing the educational content. They may not always have the newest tech vendors as sponsors, don't really play in how their sponsorship works, with the different conferences. But I think that, plus, I really do miss the Internet Battle Plan conferences. I know that we can't have them anymore. I know. But that was such a smaller event. It gave a better conversation with the speakers and the attendees and the vendor sponsors. So I really miss that. But I will be at Digital Dealer in May, and it's the week of my birthday. So just so you guys know, if you see me there.
Your birthday, yeah, big deal.
Yeah.
You got that. You got that. Yeah, I'm speaking of Digital Dealer. Please come. Please come.
Of course. I remember in Tampa, how many years ago when you did that 20 things I would do when I bought your dealership session at Digital Dealer to a packed keynote hall. So I am sure you're going to have probably even more for this 20 things post-pandemic session you're doing.
First time I've been on stage in 3 years. I don't want to make this a commercial for my speech, but you better come.
We will be there.
Okay, Ken, you just got back from NADA. Now, you always throw one heck of a party for upscale elite clients at that. How was NADA for you, big guy?
Well, actually, this is the first year in 30 I didn't walk the floor, which was actually a nice relief for me.
You didn't?
So I actually enjoyed that. So I just mostly had a lot of private meetings. So we spent a lot of time in private meetings outside of the convention center, which actually was extraordinarily productive for us. So we had a really good time. But besides the NADA, we got more involved in it was called the National Association of Dealer Counsel, NADC.
Really?
Which is mostly attorneys. So it's pretty much law firms that deal just in the automotive space. There's been a lot going on kind of behind the scenes. M&A has been a big thing with merger and acquisitions. It's been very robust. We've worked on a record number of transactions in the last 2 years we ever have. But more so than that, there's still behind the scenes that you don't hear much about is manufacturer relations problems. So warranty reimbursements are a big thing. Territorial rights are getting to be really fought over and hotly contested. If you read automotive news last week, the manufacturer had to pay some serious money to a dealer that they had some encroachment issues. So we're seeing a lot of movement in the lawsuit activity between dealers and manufacturers, more so we've ever worked on.
Oh, you're going to see a lot more. And I know that was the theme underlying the convention, but it looked kind of angry when the dealer meetings of all the manufacturers, the manufacturer reps look like the Frankenstein monster running away from the villagers.
Well, you know what's missing? You remember, years ago we used to go to all the manufacturer parties. They used to have these crazy, very expensive parties. Well, those are vaporized. You'll see.
Oh, I used to love the manufacturer parties. I would fight to get a ticket to General Motors or Ford. They're incredible manufacturer parties. So the parties at all the conferences. Hannah, talk about conferences. Now, how many are you going to attend this year? I know you've sponsored my Internet Battle Plan a number of times, and I appreciate it with different companies too. What are you doing this year?
Of course. So still we typically have NADA as like our pin for, okay, what does the market look like? Do people want to attend events? As well as even just overall marketing budget. And then we kind of decide. But for us, NADA has been great thus far. It was awesome to be back on the showroom floor and, post-event ROI looks good. So we've already committed to Digital Dealer in the spring. So I'll see you there, Jennifer, in May, as well as you, Jim. And then we'll also be at Digital Dealer in the fall. And then we're sort of weighing our options with some of the other conferences. Women in Automotive is something I may attend personally. It's one of my favorites. Driving sales.
Is there a Women in Automotive scheduled conference? I saw online, and I was looking for it, and they don't have it online. And I know it was just acquired.
Right.
And I'm trying to figure out, are they going to have a physical conference? They've got a virtual conference coming up June 22nd.
Yeah, so far I've only seen the docket for the virtual event, but I wouldn't be surprised if something pops up in the fall or the winter like they typically have done.
Yeah, well, part of that is that June virtual is part of a launch for that to discuss it, and then also at Driving Sales they'll be making a presentation there and in a big announcement. So there's not it's to be determined still on the who, what, where, when, why. But congratulations to Veronica and the team of awesome people who are working with her, alongside her, and as a part of the team to really launch something even greater. If that's possible.
Yeah. I'm so excited that she acquired that conference, because she has been such an integral part and just participating as, like Hannah said, personally attending, not just with sponsorships with the companies that you work for. So I'm really excited. And, it helps that, we love Veronica. So, but
right. One of our tribe wins were like, yes. Like one of our tribe just acquired women in automotive. I don't know if you can say to anybody, like, design the people around you on purpose and,
I mean, I feel like you tell people that
matters, but
okay. Max, why should people attend conferences?
So I think the ultimate reason, right? If you're a car dealer, you attend to learn things, right?
That's the reason I would think you went to conferences. Whenever I designed a conference, whether it was my sales manager super conference or we did 25 internet battle plans, hundreds of other F&I and sales manager seminars, hundreds. I've done hundreds of seminars, 30 or 40 conferences. The idea is to learn something. Right. The parties are peripheral.
Right. But unfortunately, and I'm speaking from experience, I skipped this year, but I've been to the last 11 NADAs. And I have to say, car dealers are a minority at NADA.
And I don't even think that one's an educational conference.
It's a vendor orgy.
It's a vendor
that's what it is.
We gotta get NADA going on there. I'm gonna start
you come into NADA, you walk down Cox Boulevard.
That's the thing with conferences that I always loved, like from little to big, though, is that every one of them has a purpose. The littler conferences are more intimate. You have better conversations. A lot of what I learned coming up through what I know now and continue to came from meeting somebody in a session or in the hall and then having a drink with them later, joining them for a cocktail, having really brilliant conversations and forming relationships. The powerful relationships and networking opportunities that I've had that were presented to me all came from conferences. Almost every single one of them. And when people think, oh, that's just hanging out with people, it's not, because when I need an expert in a field who knows the answer to something, I know who to call, and I know that I can trust them based on the conversation that we had and continuing on, versus an educational conference where you still have that same ability, but these big conferences, it's almost impossible to run into somebody 5 times.
Let's say that the virtual conferences failed. They did. I mean, it was a good idea, but it didn't work. I mean,
no, we can't.
So now we're back face to face. Let me go through some of the upcoming conferences. Okay, the first one on the calendar is going to be the Kane Company, Kane 2022.
I saw that. Pre-pandemic, that was a fall conference, but it looks now that's going to be a spring.
He moved right to the front of the line. David Kane. The Kane 2022 conference. Who has attended that?
I have multiple times. I love David Kane's event. Much like Internet Battle Plan, it's a smaller, more intimate event with the vendors in the room. Sometimes they split sessions, but I really do like that. Always joke. David Kane was one of the first trainers I ever worked with at my group that I worked in Detroit. So, always have a special affinity there for David. Does a great event, I think.
Okay, jump right out there. So, should they go to that conference? If they've got
this is my recommendation. I think David does a good job of selecting presenters and vendors that have a nice ROI for dealers. So if you are looking for the biggest bang for your buck in tools and technologies, I strongly encourage you to attend that conference.
Okay, Ken, the AI CPA. Now, I have been the keynote speaker. Thanks to you, mostly. A lot of people don't understand or know about the AI CPA conference. when I spoke in that audience had 500 and 600 people in it. It's the controllers.
Can
It's
you
the
imagine there's that many boring accountants in one room? Can you imagine?
Oh, and they weren't boring. I mean, no, they were swinging from the chandeliers at night. I'm telling you, those people. You know, it was one of those Girls Go Wild videos. You know, just tell me about the AICPA conference.
Oh, they hold that once a year. The attendance is down from that. It's not as big as it was anymore. So I'm no longer on that committee, the speaker committee. So maybe if I get reappointed, we'll get you back speaking again. Oh yeah, I know you know a guy, right? That will.
Yeah, I know a guy. Yeah, get back on the committee.
Eligible, ineligible.
Well, see, the thing about AICPA is I was one of the very few, if any, paid speakers they ever had.
It's not really something for dealers to go to. It's more like for their CFOs.
Right.
To go to is it's a very high level of accounting and tax. So even a controller probably wouldn't want to go to that, but a CFO of a larger group. So they do attract some of those. So there's a good amount of dealership personnel that go, but it's usually at a much higher accounting level to go to that.
How are the parties at that event? I'm just curious.
Amazing, unbelievable.
That's
I can't tell you about them because there's top secret. Yeah.
Those nerdy
Top
guys,
secret.
I'm telling you, nerdy
But
girls,
I'm
nerdy
telling
guys.
you, they are not what you think. I mean, when you think
Listen,
there's-
I am going to just state for the record, as a former comptroller,
yeah.
you know, we don't do any of that.
I'm going to state as her best friend. You've met me, right?
We definitely
Oh,
don't do
yeah.
any of that.
It's only on a need to know basis. Yeah.
Now,
You're gonna have to
here-
sign an NDA.
Now, here's one that I highly recommend. And let's face it, dealers, invest in your people.
Yeah.
And go with them. Don't just send them, go with them.
And make
One
a
of the
plan.
worst things about
Well, yes, the
conferences-
plan. That's huge. I was hoping we would come to that
Make a plan.
because
Yeah. One of the
You know-
Setting
worst
an objective.
things, the worst things dealers do is send your people unescorted by top management to the conference. They come back and nobody knows what they learned and everybody resists it and it doesn't have an effect. Go with your people. Send your general manager to the conference. Attend
And
the workshops at the conference.
at the very minimum, before your team departs for the conference, have a meeting with everyone. Print out the agenda of all of the sessions. Identify who's responsible for going to which. What are we going to learn?
Yeah.
And what are you responsible for bringing back?
What a great idea. Go over the conference agenda and assign different workshops and different speakers. So they all don't go to the same one and learn the same
Right.
thing.
Well, that's the thing, right? What's a goal without a plan? A wish, right? One of the most successful things that we've ever done together, Jennifer and I have done this every single conference, whether we were a dealer, a vendor, a partner, no matter what, have offered every time to meet with any dealer group before the conference starts on day one and ask them, what are you trying to accomplish, and help them walk through the agenda and who they should visit, including going with them if necessary. And then finalizing with a recap meeting of like, hey, here's a good way to bring this back to the store so it doesn't just fall apart. So it's not just an idea,
Right.
it's an actual
Accountability and execution.
For years, if you see us at a conference, that's still a thing. Say, hey, can you do that with me? And we absolutely will.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, Hannah, which events are you going to be going to this year? You said you're going to be going to quite a few of them.
I will. So on my agenda so far are both of the digital dealer shows, and then I'm hoping wherever Women on Automotive lands, I'll end up there as well. I did want to just touch back on schedule and planning because that's something I do take really seriously. For my team as well as dealers attending, you can't even show up to the event unless you have about 9 scheduled meetings per person. That's just 3 a day. That's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I always tell people to, at the bare minimum, come hungry and come thirsty. As well as even if say it's, like you guys were saying, it's a big vendor party, there aren't going to be a ton of dealers in attendance. Great. This is a perfect opportunity to talk about partnerships. Who are you going to be able to partner with? Like network through the other vendors that are there. It could be over drinks and it really could be a party, but definitely try to make the most out of what you're given with the audience who's there. So I don't care if they're dealer meetings, I don't care if they're vendor meetings, but they do have to have at least 3 scheduled and preset that is on a digital calendar. We're not printing out things anymore. I want to make sure I can see it on your calendar. I want to make sure also you are aware of time. Like in Vegas, it's so easy to forget, number one, how far away things are.
Oh my God, right?
And number two, what time of day is it even? You know, in a casino, it's very easy to get lost and confused, but on a showroom floor, it's the same exact type of layout.
I can't make my way across a casino floor. I end up stopping and playing.
It's the same thing at a conference, though. There's, you know, people trying to pull you in. There's games, there's prizes, there's people trying to get to you. There's no clocks, there's windows. I wouldn't be surprised if there's oxygen to keep you there longer.
There is. That's a fact, especially in Vegas.
As long as you can get those calendars like linked to your phone, sync to your phone, like I just use Google Calendars, then I get a quick alert. And it's like, hey, I got to make it to my next meeting, so that you can not only have time for those meetings, but have the built-in time to kind of wander around, network, meet new people.
Part of the ability to work hard, play hard is the ability to still work hard,
right?
And then things, right? I love the parties. I encourage everybody to go to the parties.
And I used to hate the parties.
Be up. She sure did.
Now, Max, are you a party animal?
Up at 8 a.m. Be up at 6 a.m. Be at your meetings. Drink your Pedialyte. You know.
Max,
so Jim,
you know
these conferences remind me also of you know, going to college, right? You can either go and learn or you can go and party, right? And for some reason, a lot of people think that they're Rodney Dangerfield and back to school, you know. They're just there to party hard, you know, and they miss out on so many opportunities, whether to learn things or to even network. You know, I guarantee you, again, going back to an ADA, a lot of dealers go there and never, ever step foot inside the convention center, right? They're going to Vegas, you know, they're going to NADA.
Well,
they went to the OEM. What more do you want?
We got a brand new conference. I started to announce this. We got on the side subject, the Ethical F&I Conference.
I heard about that one.
That has grown really very quickly. It was a bunch of managers that defected from the Bobbie. Now, this is a subject we've been talking about. The Bobbie F&I Conference, F&I Magazine, the Bobbie Conference, which I was writing for Bobbie magazines at the time. They were complaining that they went to a conference and there were no dealers there. It was all vendors. It was a conference of vendors. And so they split off and started their own Ethical F&I conference. Justin Gassman, Marv Eleazar, a whole bunch of them. And they're having it in Denver. They had a heck of a big turnout, their first conference. Their conference, Ethical F&I Managers Conference, coming up in Denver, April 19th and 21st. So I would definitely tell you, you need to get online. If you have an F&I manager that wants some first-class education, that is one really strong, up-and-coming, splintered off from the main conference.
I'm not sure how I feel about the name, though.
Ethical F&I. Yeah,
it's like oxymoron, right?
That implies that you're a crook if you don't go. Ken, what other conferences have you attended?
I like the digital dealer one. Our firm's really gotten very heavily invested in technology, and so we're going to start going to that one as well, I think, and just start working with data mining, KPIs, that kind of thing, and look at advertising ROI, effective advertising, and things like that. And
so there's a lot to pick up, because one thing about Ken that I know, he's an advisor to a lot of dealers on things other than their CPA needs. You know, a lot of dealers go to Ken. Ken, what about this? What about that? So he's attending these conferences. Okay, Digital Dealer, May 9th through 11th. Now, that is my favorite. I was there at the beginning. I was the keynote speaker for number 2 or number 3, I forget which, in Las Vegas. You know, the first one was in Nashville. I didn't attend that one. I came number 2 or number 3. I was the opening keynote speaker for 6 or 7 of them. I don't know, but digital dealer through the years. I've been a speaker at 17 NADA conventions, 98 state dealer conventions, and probably 15 digital dealers. I don't know. Oh, golly.
So, interestingly enough, I think that right before COVID hit, I took the year off conferences, which is uncommon because I'm usually at all of them for the last 10 years. If there was a conference, I was there either speaking, educating, whatever. I took the year off before during a massive build of my business and thought, I can go to conferences next year. And then boom, all conferences gone. So I've only been back to one since then, and it was the first digital dealer after conferences started again in real life. So digital dealer has a special place in my heart, but also I think that is going to be the conference that most people relate to when it comes to technology and when it comes to new things and just are most familiar with. So I think we're going to see a bigger presence at that conference.
I wonder if they will start up because to the comment on the board right there, and there are a couple of conferences that have startup alleys, and Digital Dealer wasn't one previously that did. I wonder if that's something they would start incorporating, because I agree with this commenter, and we can't see her name, so I'm so sorry. Just this Facebook user.
That came out of a private group. That's why.
Yeah, the tech is important, and I think those conferences that do highlight in their expo center a startup alley is really important.
Brilliant.
I would like to see startups. I was just thinking. I'm looking at Jennifer Briggs and Bobbie Herron. When you two were working in dealerships, I met you both at one of my conferences. You were attendees.
Yeah, in Detroit.
Yeah, we've always really prided ourselves on attending not just automotive conferences. When I say I've attended a lot of conferences, they're not just automotive, and that's where a lot of the knowledge that we bring back and share comes back to. And when we met at yours, Jim, even then, I wasn't familiar yet with Battle Plan. It was my first time attending. And I was really impressed. It was a small group of people that were brilliant. And Jennifer and she's my main chick. We're best friends. That relationship formed.
I handpicked the speakers. And, a lot of people paid to be on stage.
Yes,
but you couldn't get on my stage if you weren't good enough. You couldn't pay me.
You made me present TED Talk style 30 times before you let me step on stage. And I had already spoken at 30 I'm exaggerating, massive conferences across the country where if I submitted, they were like, you're in.
Matter.
Jim's like, listen, come here. This pacing thing you do, this hand thing you do, let's work on that. Great. I mean, but look, he's
I'm a professional speaker. And you mentioned conferences. Hannah just mentioned conferences outside the auto industry. I pick up a lot of what I know from National Speakers Association conferences, and I bring it to the car business.
Yeah, so, a lot of the tech I use with my clients is not automotive tech, and then I never name it on conversations because I'm not throwing it out there.
Well, I'm telling you, if you don't go to any other conference this year, not just because I'm involved and I'm one of the big speakers on the big stage, you need to be there. Not just because of that. No.
Yes,
you need to go to Digital Dealer. You need to. Okay, moving on. Driving Sales President's Club. Oh, they got a President's Club and a regular one, huh? Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm not a fan of Jared Hamilton. Don't like him personally, but that's besides the point. Tell me what you think of Driving Sales.
So the President's Club event, I'm so honored to have been able to speak there before because it is very difficult to get a speaking spot at President's Club. And actually, I was the very first woman to ever present on used cars at any driving sales event.
I recorded that.
So I think that there are some, the driving sales primary event, I think they do a good job of bringing people from outside of auto for at least one keynote. They'll have one keynote speaker who is not auto related, but specific to advertising. I think where Digital Dealer gives us a variety of educational sessions, driving sales honestly feels a lot more focused on advertising than anything else, at least in my opinion. Now, except for
But
President's
isn't-
Club.
isn't
President's
it-
Club is
Now, I've never attended a driving sales, right? Because I haven't got a personal conflict there. But
right.
I understand it's a lot of vendors and not as many dealer people. Am I wrong?
Well, I will say I haven't attended a driving sales since I've been a dealer, so I can't answer that. As a dealer attending, I saw a lot of other dealers. They had always had a startup alley. That was the first time I ever saw a startup alley in an expo, was at driving sales primary event. I think the President's Club event I would prefer as an operator, because it is more like a dealer principal 20 group than anything else. It's not like a regular conference at all. It's workshops, roundtables, that type of stuff, talking about executing on operational strategies, not an advertiser, sponsor, vendor fest, right? So they have two totally different kinds of events, in my opinion. But to be fair, I have not attended their primary event in a number of years.
And then we got the DMSC, the Brian Pash's event.
I've never been to that one. Hannah, have you been to that one?
I have, yeah. That's one of my favorite events. I mean, the location itself could make it anyone's favorite event. You're in one.
It's in Napa Valley.
For a weekend.
I know, Brian Pash and I have just recently sort of reunited. We've been at odds for a while, and that's public knowledge.
I'm glad.
We did a broadcast yesterday, and there will be more. And I've always known Brian. We were pretty good friends at one time. He's a wine aficionado, so Napa Valley is a subplot. Oh, by the way, Ken, thank you for that wonderful bottle of wine you sent us.
You like that?
That was a great bottle of wine. I mean,
got a few left. If anybody didn't get one.
I come to think of it, it was broken when it got there. Can you send another one?
I would say with driving sales, Jennifer's spot on when it comes to driving sales. Now, the first time I ever spoke on a stage in front of a massive audience was at President's Club. That was my first speaking engagement in my professional career that was to a broad audience the way that it was. So I feel like I might have a little bit of sentiment towards it that may be a little biased. But thinking about the conference itself, President's Club is a completely different experience than the regular conference. And I attended President's Club at twice the amount of times that I did the general one. Because for me, it was always choose between Digital Dealer and Driving Sales because they were so close together in the fall.
And so they competed to be, and when Mike Roscoe was running Digital Dealer, he used to try to step right on top of Jared. So
he did. I'll tell you though, as an attendee, Digital Dealer was more fun when Roscoe owned it. And like that or not, but it was the truth. I'm telling you. But it's a lot more professional now. So there's that too. And I joke and say that, but look, there's nothing wrong with enjoying yourself when you're at a conference, as long as you get up and go to work and attend things and bring back a plan. If
I want to go back to DMSC a second. We sort of brushed over what is that called? Digital Marketing Strategies Conference, DMSC, Brian Pash's Napa Valley event. Who's been to that one?
I think just
Hannah.
I was in the first one.
Okay, Hannah, you're the expert on it. What goes on there?
Oh, well, yeah. First of all, if anyone's looking for a recommendation, I'd give it a 10 out of 10. Again, not just because of the wine that's there for the entire conference, but it's also, Jim, similar to yours, at least in size. He caps it at about 120 people. So it's more boutique-y, it's more niche, but I will say the caliber of people who attend are top tier. It's owners, it's dealer owners of groups. Sometimes, in particular, Lithia is always at that event. So that kind of can give you an idea of who's in attendance from a dealer perspective, as well as it's people that Brian has vetted. On the vendor side, it's people that he truly believes in, that are really helping the cause for all things digital. And, he tries to stay somewhat non-biased, but everyone there really has good intentions. So the sessions themselves are relatively quick. I think there's 2 keynotes a day. There's a morning breakout and then a night breakout right before dinner. The great thing is it's all within 15 feet of each other. So you're not getting lost in a huge convention hall. It's at a relatively small hotel where you can just kind of pop in from one room to another, and then everyone can conjugate in the big room for dinner, breakfast, lunch, and they'll have sessions going on then. It's also nice because I think now he actually requires that a dealer speak with any vendor should they be speaking. So you can always have sort of like the fact check there right on stage. He keeps things really open for him. He passes mics around kind of like you did, Jim, where you want to get the audience engaged. So regardless of you're the attendee or the vendor, you can participate quite a bit. And actually the caveat to it, similar to President's Club, where you have to be only C-level and above, you cannot attend this event unless you are sponsoring it, you are a dealer, or you are straight from the OEM. You cannot just be an attendee. So you kind of have to come with purpose. You can't just kind of show up and float around. The last thing I'll say on it is, because it's not competing with, number one, any other conferences, but number two, any of, the allures or highlights of Vegas, everyone's in Napa, kind of similar to Tampa, where you might all be going to the same venue, or you may all be going to the same wineries. So it does kind of keep this group really close over a couple of days. So you're not kind of wandering off or doing separate group things. Everybody really gets a chance to interact with everyone who's attending.
One thing that's got me concerned is that all the events, the 4 events in a row in May.
Yeah.
Now, when I was doing Internet Battle Plan, I always stayed away from the other conferences. My conferences, I know Mike Roscoe, and I know I was involved heavily with Mike Roscoe. He was always trying to be right on top of driving sales,
Build up the audience in his mind.
Yeah. So another one we're looking at now is the NIADA. Now, Ken, what conferences have you attended that one?
Yeah, I've been to that conference as well.
Dealers.
That's not quite as robust as the NADA. But I was going to bring up 2 way different kind of ideas that have really been had a big impact on our practice. One is automotive shows in different countries. And United States is not the largest car market in the world. So I've been fortunate enough to speak at and attend the largest car market in the world, which is China. And I don't know if you can see this, but you want to talk about emerging technology or not. I'm not sure you can see this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the new electric car of the future. It's called the Byton. It's made in China. Chinese are typically known for their high quality products, but that's a very high. I actually got to test drive one. And to look at it, it's an amazing vehicle. And with the technology,
you were a speaker at that conference?
The China Automobile, yes, I've been at the China Auto Show and at China Auto Dealers Association meetings as well. And what's interesting there is that these are giant markets. They have dealers there there's a dealer in Beijing that sells 100,000 new vehicles a year. There's not a dealer in America that comes close to that. And it's to see what they do for advertising and how their service departments work and the processes they use for such.
I got to go teach those guys the Foursquare.
we actually brought them to we had our own conference for China auto dealers in LA. We did it with a host law firm there. And we brought some of the largest dealers from China over here to see what we did. We took them to Lexus in Newport Beach, which is a very large dealership, friends of ours, and also took them to New York City to see some dealerships there. And it's been it's very enlightening how some of the things they do are opposite of ours, and some things they do are more advanced than what we do. They don't have the kind of F&I products that we have. So listening to them and how they would sell F&I products in China, some of them are actually illegal in China. So it's just, you have to be real careful what they sell or not sell. But then listening to some of their sales processes for new cars, the competition there is very fierce as well. So it's really interesting. We learned a lot. The English in the UK have different methods of doing things as well. So sometimes when you talk about some of these, to attend one of these international auto shows is enlightening, to see some things we do that's like so far advanced, and other things we do is like they're way ahead in our future. So it's interesting to see that. And I don't know if any of you have attended other auto shows like the New York Auto Show, the LA Auto Show, Chicago Auto Show, other than the local ones or the Detroit Auto Show. Right. They're all different to me. So like I can go to one in LA or the one in New York, and they're totally different experiences with
I
types of
have been a
vehicles.
keynote speaker for a number of those auto shows. Yes, so
It's fascinating just to see how they do things in different markets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I picked up a lot just from going to different
Well,
auto dealer association meetings.
Yeah. And I will even say, I've not been to NIADA, but I did go to my first state independent auto dealer association last fall. And it was interesting because always being from the franchise perspective as well. So just even if you can't get the ticket to China or the UK, like Ken is suggesting, sometimes think outside of it, because it was at that independent auto dealer conference in the fall that I found the two coolest pieces of technology I've seen in a long time.
really,
So get outside of your comfort zone when you're looking at the education or technology that you're trying to
I got a
acquire.
story about the Independent Auto Dealers Association. I only spoke once to that association, and this is probably 93 or 94. It was a long time ago. So, okay, I'm keynote
Hannah probably
speaker,
wasn't around back then. So.
and it was Myrtle Beach, Carolina. Okay, it was at Myrtle Beach, not Myrtle Beach, excuse me. What's the resort? Hilton Head.
Hilton Head.
It was a Hilton Head. So anyway, I'm in Hilton Head, and I did a speech, and I believe I charged them $7,500 plus travel for a 1 hour speech. So I get at the end of the speech, and some Bubba, and I mean, I'm talking to Bubba. He probably had a 5-car lot, but some Bubba comes up. He says, "I understand they paid you $7,500 for the speech." I said, "Yeah." He said, "That's absurd. That's insane." He starts railing me about how much I charge to do a 1 hour speech. So I said, "Wait a second. They paid me for 30 years. It took me to learn what to say. That they paid me for my experience." And he's still railing me. He wasn't education level enough to get where I was coming from. So my wife was with me, and it was embarrassing. So we're leaving, and I'm getting in the cab, and he comes up and corners me again. He said, "You got to buy some raffle tickets to win the diamond necklace." I said, "No." I said, "I really don't want to do that. You need to buy some raffle." He's got
Wait, he actually worked for the conference, this guy
no,
who was giving
they
you
were
hard time?
selling raffle tickets for their
Oh,
big banquet. So
okay.
he's embarrassing me, and the crowd's coming up. He said, "You need to buy some raffle tickets." I said, "Well, how much are they?" They said, $25 each. I said, "Okay, I will buy a raffle ticket." One ticket. Some of these people bought 20 tickets. He's going nuts on me. So I bought one ticket. That was Saturday night. And they had their banquet after we left. Monday morning, I come in my office, and my secretary said, "Jim, you got a call from Carolina Independent Auto Dealers Association." I said, What? "You won the necklace." I
Serves
said,
that
"What?"
guy right.
No. It gets better. It gets better. So anyway, I called the guy that's the head of the association. He said, "Jim, it was really rough when you won that necklace. There were groans in the audience." I said, "Yeah." He said, "So the guy that sold you the ticket raised his hand and said, we need to have a runoff." And I said, "He did what?" He said, "We're going to have 10 tickets and draw 9 more tickets." And I won again.
And the moral of the story is don't be a hater.
That's my experience with the NIADA.
Well, I was at the CIADA and
Debbie still has the
the
necklace, by the way.
Unfair Advantage Automotive Mastermind event. And I mean, everyone seemed lovely, not like that guy.
Oh, amazing. And then
I
we
was
got,
sad to miss,
speaking of used car dealers, we've got the Unfair
Yeah.
Advantage Automotive Mastermind Group, brought to you by the CIADA convention. I guess it's Carolina, and Expo at Myrtle Beach. And that's Tracy Myers, right?
That's Tracy Myers' event. And last year was my first time attending it. And I really enjoyed that format. I really did. The Unfair Automotive Mastermind was the day, it was like one day of the whole big Carolina conference, but the style that they did, I loved. The audience, like they have selected educators, but the audience at the beginning selects the topics, right? So it's more of a brainstorm conversation. And so everybody, they get out a whiteboard and say, here are the 5 topics we're going to talk about. In between the educator sessions, everyone in the room brainstorms, shares ideas, and comes up and collaborates on different things. I thought it was a really cool format.
Max, what conferences have you been to that we haven't talked about?
So one conference that I really, really enjoy, because it's almost like going back in time, is Buy Here, Pay Here conference.
Really?
It's out of this world, guys.
Do they have separate ones? I know the independent dealer conferences have a lot of that content.
It's separate from independent conference. And it's usually around the same time as NADA, and it's also in Las Vegas. So it's literally like going into a parallel universe. It's something that we're not familiar with, I'm telling you. For pure entertainment and learning new things, that's the place to be, guys. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. But also, listen, I want to take this opportunity and say that I honestly was always disappointed with many, many conferences. And I was going to do my own. And actually, Ken was going to speak at it. It was scheduled for April 7th of 2020. And then COVID happened, and we had to cancel it. It was going to be in New York City, and it was called Perfect Dealership Conference.
Go ahead and blame me for COVID now. Go ahead.
Right. So, I wanted to do a conference where it would cover every department, the same way how I wrote my first book. I wanted to do, a section on sales, section on F&I, parts, service, body shops.
Did you write a book?
I did.
A few of them.
And I think I wanted to do a one-day.
Where can they buy that book?
On Amazon and iTunes. There's a Audible version as well.
They can just Google up Max Zanan.
Max, don't you have a website, Max? What's it called?
Thank you, Bobbie. MaxZanan.com. So getting back to the conference, right? I wanted to do a total immersion of dealers and vendors. So it wouldn't be like a vendor orgy. It would be something so much more effective, where the dealers that want to learn would be present in a very intimate setting, because it would be no more than 100, 150 attendees. And same thing with vendors, where they're not going to get on the stage and it's going to be just a cold pitch. It would be in a round table format where everybody can participate and ask questions, and it wouldn't be scripted. You would be free to ask any question when it comes to.
That's very similar to the unfair advantage format, Max.
Right.
Yeah.
But I know I just would do it better because I would do it,
Now, Tracy Myers puts on a fantastic event.
Right.
We were very
happy. I would do
happy.
it better anyway. And maybe one day when I, find the strength, I will bring it back alive,
You let me know when you're ready, Max. Yeah. I was gonna say I was sad to miss. I really wanted to attend South by Southwest this year. That's one of the conferences that I really enjoy. It's one that I was looking forward to being back in person. Due to family circumstances, I wasn't able to attend. But the next one that I'm looking at that's outside of automotive is the Women in Tech Conference, which is a hybrid digital in June for North America and Europe. I had hoped to head on over to Europe to attend, but we'll see how that's going to go and what's going to change based on circumstance. But both of those conferences are really great outside of automotive conferences. Even MozCon is a good one, but South by Southwest, I think, leads some of the emerging technology that's outside of our industry that really can be easily brought in. And I think that is the right thing for high educated dealers who are ready to be next level progressive, that they should be attending.
Well, and those conferences outside of auto, I think, again, going back to being very specific about what your goals are.
Right.
I know I had at one point in time attended, it was kind of based around psychologies of web design. Mm-hmm. And so just a quick one-day show, not automotive related, but about web design in particular, best practices, things like that. So if you're identifying what your role is, then start researching outside. I know a ton of people that go to the consumer technology conference, right? Or Bobbie's mentioning the women in tech. Yeah. So depending upon what your role is, you can really start to search outside of auto only if you're trying to have a competitive advantage against everybody else.
Right.
Well, notice everybody that a lot of the conferences deal with technology and technology vendors, technology applications, because technology has rapidly changed. And dealers, I'm talking to the dealers' general managers. Hey, pay attention. Okay, pay attention. I'm talking to the dealers and general managers here. The technology you're using is probably obsolete and outdated.
Most of it is, yeah.
You need to look at the new CRMs. You need to look at the new DMS. You need to look at the new technologies. You need to examine every vendor that you're paying money to, including the uniform vendors in the service department. I'm talking about every vendor you're paying money to. Is there a better application? Is there a better alternative? And right now there are vendors that are combining services. And if you haven't seen this, I go in a car dealership and the sales managers are sitting at the desk with 4 screens. Their heads are buried in the screens because they got 4 different vendors on 4 different screens. Well, now there are vendors that have combined technologies, one push, one button applications. You need to look at what's available. Now you say, well, Jim, I'm satisfied with my current vendor. No, you're not. You like the representative. You've fallen in love with the representative. You don't know what people are struggling with the vendors.
One of the things that I do at every conference, and I recommend everybody do this, everybody does their own thing, but I relook at every vendor that I already have an existing relationship with as if I never had one. And I walk up to the booth, I don't give them my name. I usually switch badges with somebody else as I'm doing a walk around almost every time. And I tell them, show me what you have now. And here's the thing that I think is unfortunate. Well, one of the things I think is unfortunate with the lack of conferences during COVID is that there are actually some amazing new products that have been released
that nobody knows about
from the vendor partners that you're working with that you likely don't even know exist. You don't know what's included in them. And if you're not taking the time to look at that, it's a big mistake. Right. There are some cool new things that are not automotive that have been brought into some of the existing vendors that are just incredible, but they're not called what you would think they're called, and they're not on your OEM approval list yet. So it can't just turnkey in. So you're not paying attention. And if you're not at a conference doing that, reevaluating not just the potential need for a new vendor, but for what you can enhance with the one that you have, it's a big mistake. Start taking the demos on and doing them. And I fear that as conferences come back, it took so long to get executive leadership to approve multi-level attendance for conferences that COVID, yes, is a reason to not attend. If you are concerned about COVID, I'm not encouraging you to attend. I won't get into that political debate. But if you are ready to attend, I'm concerned there are a lot of upper level who are going to have to be rebought in on this and who are going to be going out and
they're going to have to see it. You're right, but Bobbie, you are so right. And April Simmons, one of my favorite people in the world, she was on with us a couple of weeks ago. The onboarding process scares the dealer. That's what she's talking about. Oh, I don't want to have to do this onboarding process. We might lose data, and it's going to take weeks out of our sales.
Well, that's because not every dealer has an April to manage the onboarding process for them. Give yourself some credit there, lady.
Or hire a Jennifer Briggs.
I do handle that for my clients.
Same, yeah. But that's the thing. Onboarding isn't supposed to be scary. So from one perspective, on the vendor side, listen to the dealer and simplify it as much as possible. But on the dealer side, look, you don't get the result if you don't put the work in. And onboarding is not
go to the conference,
down and
see what's available, and do the demos. Do the demos. I see dealers that have gatekeepers running away all the vendors that are trying to call on them. So you don't even know what's out there.
Well,
And
I think we could take one point from some of these technology companies. You know, there are certain companies that are required to purchase and integrate X number of companies each year. You know, there's a really big player in our industry that I know their quota is 9. They have to buy 9 new technologies and integrate it into their systems each and every year. So if you think about this from our perspective, you know, making sure that you're consistently evaluating tools. And I'm not saying spend every day. I used to designate 1 day per month to stack up demos on all new products. So anybody that was, you know, sending me all these pitches and doing it, so I could just block off that whole day to focus on new technologies that caught my attention. You know, once they got past I always had my gatekeepers say, send me your white paper, send me an email with your information. If it piques Jennifer's interest, she'll reach out to you and schedule a demo. And then I would just stack the whole day with demos. Each month, I made sure I was keeping up on new technology and trends, but it didn't take over my day to day on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Who knows who Dr. Jordan Peterson is? Our
I
Toyota
do.
store. Tell me, Max.
He's from Canada, and he's a psychologist by education. He's an extraordinarily smart individual. He did an unbelievable 3.5-hour podcast with Joe Rogan. I highly recommend you listen to it. It has nothing to do with automotive, but if you want your people to get a different perspective on everything, you know, whether it's sales, interpersonal relationship, you know, just go on his YouTube. The guy is brilliant.
Yeah.
So anyway, April Simmons comes back and says dealers need to prioritize their time. It's hard to do. Hire Jennifer.
Not wrong.
Thanks, April.
Not wrong.
You gotta love April Simmons.
Listen, after April was on the show the last time, she and I actually stayed on for like an hour after, and I taught her some cool stuff in the CRM. So it was really fun.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Hannah, what other seminars and conferences have you attended? Anything we haven't mentioned?
One that sort of sticks out for me actually is Mopar. If you guys are familiar with that one, it's on the service side. It's just for Stellantis dealers, probably as the name gives away. But it actually was really interesting. You guys talk about how dealers need to understand that there has to sort of be a ranking or the getting rid of that ranking system in regards to who goes, whether it's just the dealer principal or the general manager. This is the year I think we can't forget about the service side of things. As technology is growing really quickly on the sales side, it's really booming on the service side. So I would highly recommend, if any dealership can bring multiple people, you also bring your service manager or your service director, because the same level of service that they want from the sales department, and they're going to start being expecting, whether it's virtual test drives or, you know, turn door to sales service, they're going to want to start doing that on the service side as well. So I would.
Didn't somebody try to do a whole service conference before the pandemic? Is that one 100% virtual now?
Yeah.
I haven't seen one. Ken, what do you see?
There was one launching.
Service departments conferences.
I haven't seen one personally. I think that'd be a great idea. I'd like that.
Yeah,
I know
one of the greatest consultants in the service side, Ed Kowalczyk, passed away suddenly about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I know you were friends. I'm sorry to hear that.
He wrote with me at Digital Dealer magazine when I was writing for the magazine the last time.
Sorry to hear that. I would like to throw out there that if you're not certain what conferences are happening, it can be hard to figure it out who's having what, especially if you don't know the name of them. Arnold Tijanero, who's a great friend of mine, his website, his Storytailor, I think it's just Storytailor, let me look, Storytailor.com, Tailer.com. Arnold has done a great job for years and years of listing every conference that's happening. The conferences submit to him to tell him what's going on. He not only lists what conferences are happening and when, once they're submitted, but also the events that are happening during those conferences. So you definitely want to follow him and take a look there. If you look now, you won't see everything for the year yet because people are still deciding what's going to be live and what's not. Insurance things go out, right? You can't just plan a conference and then change it. There's money involved. But but it's a really good resource if you want to take a look. And then from there, you can go research the conference and have these conversations.
And the other one is the Bobbie Agent Summit, which
I'm going. I'm going.
You're going to that. That's the Agent Summit, and that's a pretty big
To Max, the thing you're
conference.
going?
They're going to have how many people in that conference?
So it's a small conference. I think between the vendors and the agents, I want to say no more than 500-700 people.
500 or 700, and it's the F&I products, the people they call on dealerships, the vendor conference.
Right, exactly. It's the F&I products, reinsurance conference, all in one.
I've spoken at that conference, and I saw you exhibiting at that conference a couple of years ago. Yeah. So that's coming up May 15th through 18th.
Yep.
And all of this is on Storytailor, Tailer, not Storytailor.com.
But Jim, I got to tell you a funny story. One of the best conferences that I've ever attended was the Cosmetics Conference in Italy, right? And you go there and you realize how much attention cosmetics industry pays to packaging and presentation, right? And then you go to a car dealership, right? You go to like a parts department retail store, and there's this one miserable t-shirt, wrinkled, hanging, with no price tag. So my advice for car dealers to really go out of their comfort zone and see what they can bring back from other industries.
I think that's a fact.
That's a good tip.
Guys, we have been 1 hour into this. I think it's been a great conversation. Very, very non-controversial for a change.
Well, because we're sharing educational tips, not debating today.
Right. It was completely unacceptable. There was no controversy.
As I wrap it up, you need to send your people to a conference and go with them. Decision
If you're not
makers.
learning, you're dying.
You're not learning, you're dying. I mean, and post-pandemic, everything changed. That nobody's doing business the way they did a year ago. So everybody pay attention to that. I'll see y'all later. Hey, thank you for being here, guys. Ken,
Hi, guys.
Hannah, thank you. Dawg Pounders.
Thank
Everybody
you.
wave by. Ken, wave by. Ken, wave by.